Yeah, today I'm going to be going through called the 2023 SEO Masterclass for fencing and decking companies specifically. So basically, this whole entire webinar, I'm going to be going through not only the kind of the basic SEO principles, things that you may or may not know, depending on your level of skill with marketing, but going to be going over stuff that's up to date from this year, stuff that's just happened. Going to be talking about ChatGPT. If you've heard of that, that's pretty much everywhere these days now. These slides were created very recently and have all the up-to-date information I have. So these are some of the things we're going to cover, some of the highlights. So all the Google algorithm updates I'm going to be going through. I'm going to be showing like a timeline of how they've kind of progressed over the years and show you what you need to be doing to make sure you're not hit by any algorithm changes in the future and you don't have any loss of traffic, loss of leads, things like that. And also going through the things that were used in the past. So that way, if you think they may have been used on your website or with your marketing, you can kind of pinpoint them out and realize that you need to change them, or you could be putting your website at risk. And then all the ways you need to be optimizing your website, the things that are working today, and the things that we know are going to continue to work because they're going based off of Google's guidelines and what they see for the future. So a lot of detail will be coming to you. So if you wouldn't mind, just give me your undivided attention while we go through this. If you can turn off your phone, social media, any kind of alerts, things like that. These next 45, 60-ish minutes, it's going to be a lot of good stuff. And if you take this and implement it, it really can take your business to a whole new level and really dial in your marketing specifically. And SEO is, if not the most important, one of the towards your marketing for getting the most leads. So first and foremost, who am I and why should you listen to me? Alex Danner, and I am the owner and founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, and that is a digital marketing agency that only works with fencing and decking companies. We don't work with other types of contractors or other small businesses. I've been doing SEO and digital marketing for a long time, that combined with some website developments going on about 10 years now, and created Fence and Deck Marketers just because, well, for a lot of reasons, but a big one was we were getting really great results for these types of industries, and I knew I wanted to niche down and really focus my team's efforts on building and just doing a much better job of dialing in our process for one specific industry, because it can vary depending on what type of business you're doing marketing for. That on top of have a cabin in Pennsylvania. We have about 300 acres high fence there. We have 500 acres with barbed wire. So been around fencing for quite a bit and helped install that. Constantly trees falling on it all the time. So always fixing it. So just have a lot of respect for these industries as a whole. But this is what we do. Since we just work for fencing and decking, all the stuff that we put in and are doing testing for and working with other clients, it's all based around fencing and decking businesses. And we found that once you have a specific niche you're doing work for, you can really find what works best and use it to help build these types of businesses and get more leads online. And this SEO is what we're going to be going through, but we are full service digital marketing. We do websites, pay-per-click, Google ads, Facebook ads, social media, and help build a reputation as well with reviews. So if you did have a website you want me to go through, you can feel free to put that in the chat, and I can go through it towards the end. Anytime, that's fine with me if you want me to do a live example. Okay, so what we call is our omnipresence marketing system. There's 3 principles to it, and it's all about how you can become basically the best fencing or decking company in your service area or in your city. So the first one is going to be all about maximizing opportunities. So you need to make sure that people are actually calling you. They're actually finding your website, finding your social media platforms, and actually giving you an opportunity to turn you into a paid customer. So there's lots of ways to do this. We're going to be covering SEO here. I was just talking about the other services, pay-per-click, all of that. All of this eventually ends up on your website. So you have to have a first-class website, and paid advertising to be used to work with SEO as well. But the more opportunities you have, the more you can grow. You just got to make sure, depending on the size of your company, enough leads are coming in, your close ratio. So that way, you make sure your crews are busy. And if you want to add crews, you make sure you haven't that many more opportunities to close deals. So once you have all these opportunities coming in, a big way to do this, on top of having good, solid SEO, having a strong brand. So if people know that you're kind of the go-to fencing or decking company in your area, you have a strong brand that people recognize. It's great to have offline. That's usually something people will realize if they see your trucks and your storefront, things like that. But online, there's just let somebody in. So online, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You want to make sure you're showing display ads through Google, consistently posting on social media, wherever people are, especially now with all the different social media platforms. If you're posting good content and people are remembering you, that's more than likely the one they're going to choose if they like the content you're putting out when it comes time to build that fence or deck. What's going on? Okay, so the third piece of it is actually maximizing the conversions. So you have all these people coming in, they're going to your website, your social media. Eventually, they're more than likely going to land on your website, and you want to make sure you're converting them. So you don't want to just kind of throw up a website with some nice pictures. You want to have a lot of good content, but you want to have call to actions too. So contact forms on the pages they land on, big phone numbers, whatever their preferred option to contact you. You want to make sure that's really well established on your website. And we've seen, when comparing, websites that were built well for conversions versus, maybe an older website or one that was built, whatever the circumstance may be, if it wasn't built well for conversions, it's amazing to see how many more leads you can get just by having the right conversion elements. And, you turn your advertising dollars and, you can double them fairly easy, depending on where you're coming from, just by doing that. So it's really important to focus on your conversions on your website. Okay, so does SEO still matter? So if you think it does in 2023, put a 1 in the comments. If you think it doesn't and it's not important for your business, put a 2 in the comments. So I think it's pretty obvious at this point, and I already kind of let the cat out of the bag, but of course it does matter. Wouldn't be doing a webinar if it didn't. But yes, of course it does matter. I'm going to go through exactly why it matters. But because there's just so much competition, it really is not only something you need to stress, but you need to know your competition. You need to know what you're up against and make sure that you're doing things that they aren't, or doing things better than they can to beat them. So just to give you an example and show you how powerful SEO is. I hear this all the time. People are like, nobody clicks the ads, or at least they don't. I personally don't really either. I'll scroll past them, and the majority of people do that as well. Not all of them, but you can see here. So 67% go to the first 5 listings. So the map pack right there on the left, that's the map pack. That's 3 Google listings. On the right, those are the organic results. So just the top 2 from the right side, and then the 3 on the left, that's 67% of all the clicks are going to go there. And then if you add the entire website section on the right, the first page, that's going to be 73%. So all of that is generated via SEO. You have to earn those rankings versus the ads, which are at the top, around that roughly 30%. You can pay to get there. So you pay to get there, you get there quicker. SEO, you have to earn your way, but you get better results. So in a way to kind of highlight this even more, I'm sure everybody here has heard of Yelp or Angie's List or Home Advisor. All these companies are huge, very, very big businesses that spend, millions and millions of dollars to just rank at the top of Google in one of those 2 spots. So SEO continues to be, dominating the lead count for businesses. So just give you some statistics to back up what I'm trying to explain too. So of course it does matter. You can't just do paid advertising. But here's some of the biggest changes that we've seen. I'm going to get into the more recent things that have changed Google's algorithm, because sometimes people will have a website that was built, 1, 2, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's just, they might have been built by somebody that just didn't know SEO at all, or were using tactics that are working then and aren't working now. So I'm going to go through the biggest changes so you can kind of look out for your own websites to see if there's anything that you're doing that needs to be updated. So the big one, this just continues to be hammered by Google, that you just have to have detailed and well-written content. I'm going to go through all 4 of these in detail. Spammy links, low quality links that are coming from other websites to yours will really hurt your rankings. You need to be on top of that. Having a real office, physical office, not like a PO box, which they don't even let those occur anymore, but or add those to your Google listing. You have to have an actual office. And then we're going to go through some site speed stuff. So you want to make sure your website's fast. Okay, so detailed and well-written content is at the very top thing you should be focusing on to make sure it's dialed in for your website. You want to make sure that every service you offer has a separate page for it. And this one can be kind of tricky because if you just kind of think of, you're talking to somebody, or maybe you're talking to me or whoever, and you kind of think of the services you offer and you just rattle off a list and you're like, all right, these are the services I offer. That's a great start, but in all reality, there could be different ways to say those services. If it's a decking and they're talking about, like, say they want to clean their deck, deck cleaning, they type that in, or they don't really realize what they need to do is stain it or replace boards. They just know, I want my deck to look prettier. That's what's really crucial, is you want to think about every service. You think about what other people might be calling it. When you talk to them on estimates, get that list, get the synonyms for every service you offer, and then use a keyword tool to figure out which ones are actually being searched in your area. And then from there, you can write separate pages for each one of those services and make sure to mention them. And when you do it that way, you actually have a targeted approach to it. You're going to be creating a website that is going after the customers, what they're looking for specifically, what they're actually putting into Google. And you can't really go wrong going with that method versus just kind of guessing, not looking at the data. Also, most fencing and decking companies around 25 to 50-mile radius, that's pretty common. Every one of those cities you're in, you want to have a separate page for a city page. So we're going to be talking about this in a little bit more, but I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. So if it was a fencing company in Baltimore, well, I'm not actually in the city of Baltimore, but that's one of the biggest area around here. But, I would want to target other cities that are surrounding it, Ellicott City, Columbia, have a separate page for each one of those. That way you can rank your website in those areas. You can rank your Google listing there to an extent. It just depends on the competition. And the well-written copy. So just some like individual tips on this. You want to speak to the customer. So I mentioned like answering their questions. That's important. You want to have those on the actual website to answer anything that you typically see. Some people might want a little bit more information about how to install a deck or fence. Putting some of the, doesn't have to be every little thing, but some of the more technical language. Some people, I can be that way for sure when I'm trying to do something with my home, just to understand a little bit better and keep me on the page and interested. And also pros and cons. So if you're looking for a vinyl versus a wood fence, knowing the differences there, the wear and tear that they'll see over time, things like that. And big one, sometimes people, decks are going to be more expensive most of the time. People might be worried about actually affording it, so offering about financing options and different options with that, putting that on the page so they, feel a little bit more comfortable, know that is an option, a possibility for them. And also past jobs. This one, most people are doing, having good pictures of past jobs that, if they're looking for a vinyl chain link fence, you see pictures of those on the website so they can kind of figure out what they think would look best in their own yard. And 5-star reviews, reviews that you get from Google, they should be displayed on the website. You should be updating those. You can use a widget that'll bring in the automatically bring in the new reviews as you get them, and that'll also send us a signal to Google, that you're displaying Google reviews on their website, which is positive for rankings. But in the end, you just have to have content that makes sense. And in Google's eyes, they kind of look at it like, all right, so as an example, say you wanted to build a vinyl fence. I know I keep saying vinyl, wood fence, whatever. And you have an option to get like a piece of paper that kind of has a couple bullets on it to detail, what to do without going into too much detail versus, an entire book on how to prepare your yard for a fence, how to install it, how to maintain it. Just very extensive information there. Of course, the book is going to offer more information. So that's what Google is kind of looking at. They see one page that just has a paragraph talking about a fence, vinyl fence, or one page that talks about every type of fence. And then they see another website that has a separate page for vinyl and is, 1,000 words of content explaining all kinds of helpful stuff. It's just important to kind of think of it in that way because it'll help you not get penalized with Google in the future because they're looking for offering the best experience for their customers. So you want to be doing that as well. All right, so low quality backlinks. This is probably forever a problem, honestly. If you're not sure what a backlink is, so as an example, say you're on like a news site and maybe you saw like a local article talking about a local business. There's a lot of those when COVID was big, when businesses were shutting down. And then you see text in the article that links to, ABC fencing, and they highlight it, it's blue, you click it, it goes to their website. That's what's called a backlink. And they're really important for Google because it kind of ends up being almost like a popularity contest with Google. Basically if Google sees your website being talked about on other relevant websites, other fencing or decking or local business websites, it's going to make them think you're more authoritative. You have more reason to rank higher than others that might not have the experience you do. But Penguin, that's an update by Google. It was a really big one, and it basically looked at all these fake links, spam links called from PBNs, public blog networks, and they were just like basically a way to cheat back in the day. You could just pay for these links from very authoritative sites, get them. Google would see that, they would uprank your site, and then Penguin released and just basically squashed all of that and destroyed everybody that was doing anything black hat. So you can't do that anymore. Some people still try to do it. Are ways you get backlinks to your website that you're not even sure how it happened. So there's ways to tell Google we didn't do this. So you want to make sure you use tools like SEMrush, SEMrush to check the toxicity of your backlinks and tell them like, hey, take this list. We didn't build these. Don't hold it against us. One gets really tricky. Backlinking is probably the most complicated part of SEO. But you have to be careful with your anchor text. And the anchor text is basically when you're on that, as the example of the news station, you type in, or you see ABC roofing, it's blue, you click, the anchor text would be ABC roofing. Whatever's included in that blue text, that's a link. That's called the anchor text. So if you're building backlinks from other websites, what people would do in the past, they would say every website they get a link from, they would highlight Fence Company, Dallas, Texas, and highlight that and go to their website. Google figured that out pretty easily, that it was not true and people were just trying to scam the system. And now you have to be careful. You don't want to do many of those types of links, very, very few. Most of them should just go to your actual business name. So just go like the news article, ABC roofing, that's fine. The vast majority of them should be there. And building them over time is really going to help your authority. Oops. So this one here, Google's cracking down on this more and more. You need to have a real physical office to rank well on Google Maps. So you don't want to have like, a virtual office or one you share with somebody. You can use a home office if you have an actual store, or if you have a shop where all your guys get together before they go out for the day, things like that. They made it harder. It used to be just a postcard. I think maybe sometimes you can still do just a postcard. They'll Google will send a postcard to the business in the mail with a code on it, and then you have to put that code in to verify. Now we've seen that they make you do videos, so you'll have to do a video at your office. I just recently saw, you had to video yourself going into the office, like unlocking the key, showing the sign, showing documents with your business and address on it, unlocking your truck with that's wrapped, with your business wrap on it. They're getting tougher and tougher because there's just so many people out there that are trying to abuse this system. And you may or may not have seen it. There's businesses out there that just create fake listings and sell them to contractors like yourselves to, make money that way. So it's annoying, but in the grand scheme of things, it's good for actual businesses, actual fence and deck businesses. And in the past, UPS stores and PO boxes, those were used. Now they don't let you do it. If you have a physical address or you're using your home address, it's always better to show the actual address. You tend to get better rankings going that way. So you can do it, what they call it a service area business, where it just hides it. But you really, if you can, I've never really seen anyone have issues with showing their home address. I know I've definitely seen people that are kind of weary about it. But if you're comfortable with it, again, I haven't really seen too many issues. But the, I think that was, yeah. So basically just make sure, if you don't already, try to use a home address. If you're using a virtual one, things like that, try and switch it up, because it can definitely get you into trouble, suspend your listing, and create all kinds of crazy stuff for you. So the fourth one is your website speed. So I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. They want to give the best user experience possible. So in order to do that, nobody wants to wait around all day for a slow website. So, you've probably seen it before. You're looking around, searching online, and you get to you see an article on Google. You see the header or the meta title. Sounds interesting. You click it, and it takes forever to load. People are more and more impatient these days because everything's so fast. So they click off, they go to the competitor. You obviously don't want that. So you want to make sure you check your website speeds, mobile and desktop. Mobile can be a little bit harder to get faster speeds. So that's a good opportunity for people or for businesses to, outrank competitors, especially because over 50% is on mobile now. I think it might even be 60. So you can check it on Google PageSpeed Insights. That's the link there. You just Google PageSpeed Insights, and that'll bring up a test. You just put it in your URL, and it'll tell you what your score is and ways you can improve it. So this one here, if you want me to send this to you, this is really meant for like a developer, honestly. If you have never worked on websites, it's going to be a headache. So I'm not going to go into these too much detail, but these are things you can do to actually improve your page speeds quite a bit. It's just stuff done in the back end. The ones that are kind of easier to understand, optimizing images. So if you took an image of a finished fence or deck on your brand new iPhone, and then send it to your website, it's going to be this massive image. You don't want that. It'll slow your website down. You have to resize it and basically just make it a shrunk down version of what, just a smaller version, a smaller file size, and upload that. Hosting is huge. So there's a couple good options. We use Flywheel a lot. We know WP Engine's a good one. If you're using GoDaddy hosting, please get rid of that immediately. I've heard just endless bad things about it. It's not secure. You just don't want to mess around with that. Again, if you want me to send this list to you, or if you have a developer, I'd be happy to forward that over to you. Just let me know. Okay, so those are kind of the bigger changes. I'm going to kind of go through a few more here. Biggest thing is some things that were used 2 years ago may not be effective. Some might still be. I mean, if you were using some of these same tactics, of course, they're going to still be effective, but you just want to go back, look at your website, check some of these, make sure you're not violating any of Google's policies, so you don't get hit with a problem. And sometimes, they roll an algorithm out, and you think you kind of got away with it, and then a couple of weeks go by and you see a big tank in your rankings, and it gets you in a lot of trouble. So it's best to, fix it before it happens. But all these past updates, Penguin, Panda, Pigeon, they're all about user experience. They're all about writing better content, giving users the best content out there. And that's really what you always want to think about first before you start doing any changes to the website. Is this good for the user? Because if it's good for the user, it's good for Google, and it's the best of both worlds. You want to, so the technical side, something they rolled out, Core Web Vitals from Google. That's going to show you some of the performance issues with your website. So again, that's kind of a developer thing. You'll want to check in on that. Product review updates, that doesn't really apply too much for fencing and decking business, so I'll keep going. All right, so I'm going to go through some of the ranking factors and kind of how Google analyzes, the typical searcher. So, if somebody is consistently going into Google and typing in, or multiple users are going into and typing in, fence company or best fence company in Baltimore, fence companies in Baltimore, fence companies in Texas and Dallas, and they keep clicking on your link, that's the first thing you got to get them to do. You have to get them to click. But as you've probably seen on social media, and probably been frustrated like I have, you click on an article and you go there and it's nothing about what you clicked on. You want to make sure you're not doing that. So whatever they're clicking on, it actually matches the content on the page and keeps them there, because as soon as they get the click, that's great. But then they're going to start measuring how long they were there, if they're scrolling, if they're going to other pages, or if they're just bouncing off it. So the bounce rate is they get to the page, they immediately leave, or they leave before it even loads because it's taken too long. So you got to get the click, but you want to make sure you keep them there. Like using video is always a good one. If they can sit there and watch a video, that's going to keep them there for longer, and that'll tell Google they're there for longer, which is going to help your rankings. And a really, really big one too is your brand. So Google keeps emphasizing brands, and they want to see established brands that basically people can, or Google can recognize that, okay, this is an established brand in the area. So just like they might see your trucks, like I was saying, they can, people can consistently see you on different outlets online. So seeing your website on rankings and SEO, they also see your social media postings. If they see you listed multiple times on the search results page through ads, through organic, answering questions for blog posts, that's going to tell Google you're an established brand. And I'm going to get into more detail of how you can kind of improve that brand in a second. But citations, so these ones, this is kind of the first thing that should be done with a website. You want to make sure that you have, your citations in order. And a citation is your business name, address, and phone number spread across the internet. So there's basically hundreds of websites out there that will display your business information. Facebook does it, Yelp does it, Home Advisor, Angie's List, those are the big ones, Better Business Bureau. All of these websites, there's hundreds more, are going to display your information. Google is going to go to your website, your Google listing, and say, okay, does this actually match these other websites? If it does, great. They'll kind of move on to the other ranking factors, but it's something that just has to be done immediately. You want to build more and more over time, but you want to fix what you have incorrect first. Reviews, huge ranking factor. You want to be getting reviews after each job, sending out emails, texts, calling them if you have to, giving out, gift cards to Starbucks, $5 gift cards. It will for sure pay for itself if you get reviews from it. If you start to get hundreds and hundreds of reviews, you're going to look like a completely, you're just going to be blowing your competition out of the water online. So it's well worth it. And then the relevant links, the backlinks we spoke about. All right. So as I promised, I want to give kind of a timeline for all the different updates that Google rolls out. Some of them are more important than others. So I'm not going to go through every one of them. I'm just going to do the ones that I think are most important for y'all to know. So the site diversity update in 2019 that was a pretty crucial one. It's basically made it so one website couldn't rank for or twice for the same domain. And it's great news for us because Yelp, Home Advisor, these huge sites were all doing that. So, if you remember in that first slide where I said 67% go to the map pack or the top 2 listings, if you have Yelp taking the top 2, it's not good odds there to beat them if you're constantly battling that. So at least level the playing field a little bit. They could stop cheating. So we have a chance. And not that it's not impossible by any means to beat them, by the way. I'm just messing around, but that really helped level that playing field. And the page experience, you're going to see a bunch of these that are all kind of links to page experience, but they started tracking how long people were on the page, if they're clicking around, if it had a positive page experience. They first monitored that on mobile and then the desktop in 2022. You can see there's a bunch of core updates here that are more broad, but the 2 ones that really apply to fencing and decking, the helpful content, it's kind of similar to the page experience, but it's all about showing content that was written by humans that's actually helpful. It wasn't just written for search engines with a bunch of keywords in there. It's actually answering the question people have, keeping them on the page. And the spam update. So when I was talking about backlinks and spam backlinks, there was like Penguin, that was years ago where they really released that, but now they're continuing to do it even more to stay on top of those spam links. So now in 2021, I think there is one. Oh, that's supposed to be 2022. That's why. Yeah, so it was at the end of 2022. There was another one for spam updates. Okay, so this one is not only critical for everyone to understand, but it's a really big opportunity because a lot of people aren't doing this. Even marketing agencies aren't paying that close attention to this, and it's so important. So Google's EEAT, it used to be just EAT, and they added another E. So it's basically it basically derives from Google's quality guidelines for having a legitimate website that has a chance of ranking, the guidelines that it takes to follow to rank better on Google. So the first E is experience. This is all about having whatever's on your website spoken from somebody that has firsthand experience with it, with the subject. So an easy one for fencing and decking, you have somebody that works for a fencing and decking company, you're obviously going to have the experience. So having content written by them and citing different examples of work you've done, that's going to be a very positive signal for Google, and trust them more to put you at the top of rankings. Expertise, kind of similar, but this is more so just somebody that's an expert on the topic. So somebody that just knows a specific subject really well. They consistently writing about it, but they don't have the firsthand experience. There's a lot of stuff like that online with bloggers, people writing about stuff. We write about fencing and decking while we're not out there installing fencing as decks. So that's kind of the difference between those. Somebody that's actually doing it, has the firsthand experience, versus just someone that's established trust and basically trust with Google, their users, and they can tell that they know what they're talking about. Okay, I just saw, I'm sorry if I was late on that one. So so the question was, how do you check your ranking? So there's a bunch of ways you can do it. If you want to do it without a tool, like an SEO tool, like SEMrush, Ahrefs, you can just type it into Google. So you could say, and I'm going to actually I have a slide for all these keywords that you can type into, but just start with whatever you offer. Not sure if you're fencing or decking, but you can say, I'll just use the same example because I'm not being very original right now. If you were looking for a fence company in Dallas, Texas, that's where you are. You want to see where you're ranking. Just put into Google fence company, Dallas, Texas, see where you are. If you're ranking in the map pack, if you're in the website listings, there's going to be some variations I'm going to show you, and I can send them to you if you want later on, but that'll show you all the different keywords that you can search and whatever you can search a lot. That's one way. The better way is to use a tool that tracks them over time. So SEMrush, uh, SEMrush, Ahrefs. You can use Google's tool. It's called the Google Keyword Planner. These are going to give you keyword ideas, or that one's going to give you keyword ideas. But to actually pay for the tools, those are the ones we use, and those do a good job based off of the specific location you're in. So the whole idea is if you're searching from, here, I'll show you an example here. So if I'm not in Baltimore, Maryland, so I'm not currently in here. I'm over here in Westminster. But if you look at this here, say you're in your office and you can see the top. So Pile Fence, Fence Masters, Abbey, Deck and Fence and Deck. If you were sitting like right here, you would probably rank one of these two pretty easily, because you're so close to proximity. If you're searching from outside the city, that's when you're going to get a little bit better results to see where you are. But still, if it's a very large area, you want to know how you're ranking in this whole area if you're this guy. So using these tools like SEMrush is going to allow you to kind of see the whole picture and how you're ranking around you, which is where your best customers are going to come from, the ones that you don't have to drive far to, or the 25 to 50 mile radius. If that doesn't make sense, let me know. I should make it a little bit clearer when I go through the different keywords too. But let me know if want me to elaborate. So went through these two. The last two are authoritativeness and trustworthiness. So authority, I keep saying this over and over again too. You want to have good backlinks to show you're more authoritative. People are, the more you can show that, you know what you're talking about and that your website actually has credibility, the more you're going to rank higher. And the more you post good content, people are reading it, getting good engagement from it, staying on and reading it, the more authority you're going to have. The trustworthiness side, this one, the basic thing that you really need to look out for is if your website's not secure. So if you look at the URL when you go to a random website, instead of, right here where you have the lock icon, it'll say not secure. If your website says that, you need to fix that immediately. A lot of people will just jump off because they think they're going to get hacked or something. So you want to fix that. It's not hard to do. You just have to enable SSL. Again, that's for a developer. It's not hard to do, or it doesn't take long. It's just a little bit technical. Excuse me. And another one, so trust is going to be your Google reviews, or any kind of customer reviews you get online from Facebook, Yelp. Google's the king. I would focus all your efforts there and getting more Google reviews. So the more you have there, you put it on the website to show those Google reviews off. It's going to look like a legitimate business and or more legitimate than competition, which is going to help your ranking there. Okay, so why is it important? Of course, the rankings, most obvious reason. And the more you rank, the higher you rank, the more leads you're going to get, because the more exposure you're going to have, more people are going to find you, and then you're going to make more money. So that's, if you need more more reason than that, you're going to be showing just overall it's trusted, secured, and recommended. So you're going to be satisfying Google, but at the same time you can show your users actual good content, which is going to lead to more trust and make your job easier when it comes time to sell them the fence or deck. And just having quality content is going to go a long way. Okay, so these are just some ways you can improve So experience, you want to share some personal experiences when you're installing, when you're talking about a certain type of fence. You can show pictures that you've done, past jobs, kind of explaining almost like a case study to show exactly what you did. And, pictures are going to kind of paint the picture. Cite any sources, that say you were interviewed by this news station or somebody else, podcast. You can cite sources to show your experience there. You always want to include the keywords too, because if you don't have the keywords you want to rank for established on the site, it's not really going to matter about the experience and expertise. So it's a lot of little things. If you if you've caught on to that with SEO, there's just a million little things. And expertise. So you got to do keyword research there. Do the extensive keyword research we were talking about. Have a strategy around that for your whole website. Create that useful content, and then you want to consistently post content. So have your base structure of your website with all the services listed, and then from there, consistently post blog posts to support those pages and build them, build the rankings. Authority, link building, we talked about that. Social media platforms, consistently posting, that's going to show authority as well. A secure web domain for trustworthiness. You don't want it to be not secure. Building reviews consistently, get as many as you possibly can. Showing a policies and terms and conditions page on your website, and just having a consistent footprint. Whatever your brand is, be consistently talking about fencing or decking, whatever you're talking about. Be consistent, make it clear what you're an expert on. Okay, so I've heard pretty much everybody that I've ever met talk about ChatGPT. So if you haven't, I would definitely recommend looking it up, because it's can't lie, it's pretty cool what they build. It's pretty mind-blowing, and it makes you wonder what's coming in the world when you do it, because it's pretty crazy. But basically, it's just a way that will generate a lot of content for you, and a lot of people in the SEO world, the digital marketing world, or everybody's asking, can it be used to just kind of replace all content on your website? And even though that would make our lives easier for clients, we actually check to see if it would affect it, and turns out it does. ChatGPT is now a competitor of Google, basically, and they can tell if content was written by AI, and there's only going to be so much, what's the way to put it, I guess, experience or specificity to your specific brand and what you guys do. When you write with ChatGPT, it's very broad, so you want to make sure that it's generating content that basically isn't just written by a robot. You want to make sure it's written by an actual human, something that's unique. And we've done tests with it ourselves, and we've talked with others, and basically that AI content just doesn't seem to rank as well. And Google, of course, doesn't want that, because if people were just writing their whole website off ChatGPT, it would, more than likely sound at least somewhat specific or similar. But at the end of the day, if you have actual good content written by humans, it's going to stand out and rank higher. But ChatGPT is good for certain things. Coming up with different topics, it can be great for that. If you have, writer's block, you're trying to figure out what to write about, you can put a lot of stuff in there and it'll pump out things that'll definitely help you get started and, get off, beat that writer's block. But the last thing you want to do, especially if you were following the correct guidelines with Google, following EEAT, if you start writing with ChatGPT, you can really hurt the reputation of your website. It's very new, so we don't really know what could possibly happen, but I can't imagine Google's going to be a fan of anything written by them just because they're direct competitors. So you don't want to ruin all your great content with ChatGPT stuff. So that's my personal recommendation. It is backed with facts and research. You can see stuff online about it too. Okay, so the new SEO formula, talked about the keywords. Make sure you know every list of or every specific service you offer and every keyword associated to that. Really think about the jobs that you may or may not want to do. In all likelihood, if you won one job over another, but you still do, say, you could be fencing and decking, but your primary is fencing, but you'll do decking. If you're willing to do them, it can't hurt to add a page for it. If you absolutely don't want it, of course, don't put that on your website, but if it's an option, I would, so you can just turn it down later if you want to. you want to do that. You want to have all your city pages so you can rank in different cities. And then the website is just critical. You have to make sure your website is converting people, it's up to date, it's modern. If your website just was built a long time ago or didn't incorporate some of these principles we're talking about here, it might be a good idea to change it up, especially if, whether or not you're ranking perfectly or not. It can for sure help with rankings, but it can also just pay for itself very quickly if you start converting more customers, which will happen if you're starting with a website that's not, reaching its full potential. And optimizing your website for the user experience, I'm going to say that for the 100th time. The call to actions got to be in place. They've got to be easy, especially if somebody's a little bit older and they have a hard time with technology. You got to make sure they can find the contact form, the phone number, have the phone number nice and big. Monthly blog posts, always doing those every month, at least once a month. And we talked about the on-site optimization already, and the off-site, so your authority, good backlinks. And then the end, you got to track everything you're doing. So you got to know how many leads you're getting. When you make changes, compare it to see which one's doing better. Even though we know a lot of things that work for fencing and decking, it can depend on the area, so we don't just pretend to know that one system is going to work everywhere. We have to try things and switch them up and see what works best. Okay, so a little bit more in on-site optimization. This will be for a web developer, but it's much easier to do. It's not like technical stuff. So you want to have your main keyword in the title. So I'll switch it up a little bit. Let's go to decks. If you're trying to promote composite or Trex decking, you want to make sure that's in the meta title. So as an example here, this is the meta title, this is the meta description. You want to make sure it has the keyword you're trying to rank for. So as an example, this is pretty good here. Fencing company serving Baltimore. Best fence company in Baltimore, Maryland. You can always kind of look at theirs. You don't want to copy theirs, but you can kind of get a good idea of what they're doing and how they work it. You can see them using near me a lot too. So you want to make sure the meta title, meta description set up. And then when you get to the page, you want to have your header tags. So H1 through it's like H6, I think. Those are your HTML tags. So your H1 should be very similar to what you have in the meta title here. It should kind of match that keyword there. And then you should have your H2, your H3 that include additional keywords that might be related. So example, say you have a page for deck repair and or say deck staining, and you want to have also target deck resurfacing. You could do power washing too. That's probably a separate page, but anything that you're finding keyword volume for, you want to include on that page, but in the H2 and H3, and then also in the paragraph text, so the longer form content on the page. The name, address, and phone number. This is super easy. It takes 2 seconds, but you got to do it. The name of the business, the address, the phone number, they should be in the footer and contact page. So the footer will be on every page of the website. Contact page, schema, that's not really on site. That's more off-page stuff. So I'm going to skip over that for now. We talked about the unique content. I told you I'm going to keep beating that dead horse. And then the multimedia. So to keep people on the page, you want to have good images, not just text. You got to have good text, but having good videos that'll keep them there, nice images, things like that. That's going to keep them on the page longer. Okay. So this is that list of keywords I was referring to. These are different keywords you can type into Google to figure out where you're ranking. This isn't all of them. These are just the common ones that get a ton of volume. Fence companies, fence contractors, they get, I think it's like 100,000 per month. One of them is that, I forget which one, and another one's like 70 or 80,000 a month. So they get searched a ton of times. And you want to make sure your pages are reflecting these keywords. So, fence companies and fence contractors, more than likely, that'll be on probably the homepage that you're trying to target there. The homepage typically has the most authority because most backlinks are going to the homepage, or they should be. But if you're doing wood fences, you're doing privacy, aluminum, vinyl in here. All of these should be separated out into separate pages, because I always say vinyl because it's searched the most. I think it's like 90,000 times a month. If you have a separate vinyl fencing page, more people are gonna end up, have a higher ability to rank for that keyword. But all in all, it's all kind of looped into the marketing funnel. So, the funnel, there's a top, the middle, the bottom. The bottom is going to be these keywords specifically, basically the list on your left. These are the ones where people are ready to go. They're ready to buy. They're trying to find a company that can help them. They're the most important to rank for. And, the bottom of the funnel is the best way to quickly, get leads. But not everybody is ready to go, ready to buy a fence. Some people like to do more research. So you have, before I get to the middle and top, you have these add-on keywords. So you'll see fence companies near me, fence companies in my area. These are what you want to include throughout the page you're ranking for. So for example, you wouldn't really want to put, fence companies in the main header tag at the top and then add in my area. More than likely it'd be fence companies plus the city you want to rank for. But in the rest of the content, where you have 800 words, 1,000 words, you want to mention these other keywords because they're for sure being searched. So people are typing in, they might want a local fence company, or they want a family-owned one, family-owned in my area. All of these can be added to the website and throughout the paragraph text to, rank for those keywords too. But that's more so the bottom of the funnel. The middle is going to be kind of the research phase. So you want to bring as many people as you can to the website, even if it's for a later sale. So the middle is going to be the research phase. So they're getting kind of closer to the phone call. They're not quite there yet. So maybe they're typing in, what is the typical cost of a fence in, Miami, Florida? What are the best fencing and decking materials in San Diego, California? These are questions they might ask just to figure out what they should be doing. They're not ready to pull the trigger. Maybe they're waiting for their tax return, who knows? But when you answer questions like these, for example, on your service pages or in a blog post, it gets your name out there so they can learn about you. You have a great website, you answer their questions, they're going to be thinking about you when the time comes. And then the top of the funnel is a little bit more broad. These are the people that are saying, like, in 5 years, we should get a new deck, things like that. So they might be typing in, what are the different staining options for fence or deck? Like, how can we fix up this? Maybe they just moved in and they want to fix it down the road, fix their house down the road, type in things like that, answering their questions there. That's kind of the top of the funnel. So at the end of the day, you just want to be there, answer, provide value whenever possible. Okay, so here's just, I just did a random search for Tampa to see some of the companies there. So just kind of want to show you what they have in common. All of them have a pretty decent amount of reviews. The third one is really blowing away everybody. And if you see them versus the other ones, clearly they're going to stand out. So that's really how reviews can help you dominate. But they all have good reviews. 4.3 is the lowest. You want to be 4.5 or higher. But I checked, they have their citations in order. They have good backlinks. They're not using spam backlinks. And then they have the keywords in the title. So if you look at the website, fence company Tampa, backyard fence installation, they're using those keywords plus the city in there. So that's how they're ranking, for such a large area like Tampa. What we went through is really can promise you it's going to help out your business. It's going to get you a lot more better rankings. If you do, of course, need help with us, from us, let us know. I'd be happy just to have a quick call or just get some ideas from you and things you're looking into. You can give me a call at that number. Go to our website, Deck Fence Marketers. But that is what we work with, only those companies exclusively. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, either one of those options, but that's pretty much it. Thank you for coming today, and you reach out to me when you have time. Yep, I absolutely will. I'll save that number before I close out and delete it forever. Sec. All righty. Yep, that's it. Feel free to reach out, and thanks for coming. Have a good one.